بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وإمام المتقين قائد الغر المحجلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah, this will be our second to last session. And next Friday we will be concluding Aqeedah in Action part number 1. Tonight, inshallah, we'll be focusing on the Day of Judgment. But we have a little bit of remaining part from the belief in Allah's messengers. And inshallah, next Friday, we will be talking about the belief in Qada and Qadr, which is Allah's fate, which is believing in the future that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the destiny that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan for people, for all the creation. So some of the things that we did not cover with prophets, actually we were trying to go through the names. So I'll go very quick on some of the remaining names. Actually, one of the last ones that we talked about was Dhul Kifl. Remember Dhul Kifl? And there's one hadith, one common hadith which talks about a person whose name is what? Al-Kifl. And Al-Kifl is known to be someone who does a lot of sins, and then he repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we said that the hadith that talks about Al-Kifl is actually referring to a person different from the prophets whose name was Dhu Al-Kifl. So Dhu Al-Kifl is the prophet, and the person in the hadith is named Al-Kifl. So Dhu Al-Kifl, Al-Kifl, two different ones. But some of those students of knowledge, when they were reading them, they got confused. They did not realize the difference, and they thought it was referring to the prophet Dhul Kifl when it was not. So that was Dhul Kifl, and then the next one was Yunus alayhi salam. Those are the names of the prophets that were mentioned explicitly in the Quran or Sunnah. There was Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Harun. What do we call Harun in English? Aaron, right? Aaron? Okay, Aaron. Okay, and then Al-Khadr. I don't know Al-Khadr in English, but Al-Khadr was the one who was in the time of Musa and Harun. And we know the story that when Musa went to the ocean or to the sea, and this person was the knowledgeable person through whom Musa alayhi salam learned a lot of things. So that was Al-Khadr. And then there is Yusha ibn Nun. Yusha ibn Nun was the person who had the company with Musa when he had this story that was in Surah Al-Kahf. Remember when Musa went to the ocean or to the sea, and he went on that boat along with his servant and helper or assistant, and this knowledgeable person. So the assistant was Yusha bin Nun, and the knowledgeable person was Al-Khadr, right? So Musa, Yusha bin Nun was his assistant, and Al-Khadr was the knowledgeable person. And then we have Ilyas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِنَّ إِلْيَاسَ لَمِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And then we have Ilyasa, again another prophet from the children of Israel, from the descendants of Yusuf or Joseph. And then we have Sham'un. Sham'un is a common Jewish or Hebrew name, but Sham'un is the name of a prophet. Shamuel, or how do we say that in English? Shemuel? Okay, maybe. So Sham'un is actually a common Arabic Hebrew name, common. It is a name of a prophet. So if someone calls his son Sham'un, it's fine. It's a name of a prophet. Just like how someone may call his son, for example, Yusuf. Yusuf is not an Arabic name. Just like how you can call your son Yaqub, same thing here. Sham'un is actually is a name of a prophet, and in fact his story was mentioned in the Quran. His name was not directly said. And the story of his is the story in Surah Al-Baqarah. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الْمَلَإِ مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مُوسَى إِذْ قَالُوا لِنَبِيٍّ لَهُمْ بَعْثْ لَنَا مَلِكًا نُقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. This is the story towards the end of the chapter of the cow, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about when some of the children of Israel have asked their king to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send them a messenger or to send them a prophet so that they can get him as an assistant and a leader to go and fight against the dictator. And we all know the story that they went through challenges and they were very thirsty, and then they passed by a river, and their prophet told them, if you drink from it, then you are not from me, and if you are not following me, if you don't, you are with me, and all the way until فَقَتَلَ طَالُوتُ جَالُوتَ. Remember the story? It's in Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay, so Sham'un was that prophet. And then we have Dawood alayhi salam. And we believe in Dawood as messenger, as actually a prophet, not just a king. I know in what is common now between, from what we hear at least from the interpretations of the Jews, that David was a king. For us, he was a prophet as well. And then there's Sulaiman or Solomon. There's Zechariah. And who knows the son of Zechariah? What's his name? Yahya. And who was the wife of Zechariah? Oh, of course, the mother of Yahya. So, mashallah. Okay. And you asked me why I love you. That's why. Okay. So yes, Zechariah is the husband of the mother of Yahya. Her name was Isha. And they have got Yahya, their son, and then we have Amran, who was mentioned in Surah Ali Imran. He got married to Hannah, and they have got a daughter by the name of Maryam, right? Now Isha, the wife of Zechariah, and Maryam are sisters. Isha and Maryam were sisters. So Isha is the wife of whom? Zechariah. And Maryam was the wife of? Was the wife of? She was the mother of Isa. She didn't have husband, of course. Yeah, exactly. So we have Isha. Her husband was Zechariah, and her son was Yahya. We have Maryam, didn't have a husband because it was the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she had a son by the name of Isa. So Isa and Yahya were what? Cousins through the mother, right? And in fact, this was a hadith by Rasulullah that when he went into the Mi'raj, he saw Abna al-Khala, that he met with the children of the two sisters, meaning Isa alayhi salam and Yahya alayhi salam. And those, by the way, both of them were mentioned in Surah Maryam, exactly, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised both of them in that surah. So Yahya and Isa were cousins. And then we have Isa alayhi salam, and then we have Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There are a few of the special characteristics of the prophets. Prophethood is chosen by Allah. It's not something that you can work to achieve. So it's not something that you can achieve it through hard work. It is just a choice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes. So if Allah selects a person, then that's it. Otherwise, no one can become a messenger just because of a hard work. Did you know that? Of course, everyone knows that, because prophethood means that there is revelation that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Jibreel, right? Did you know that we, in today's time, we have some people who claim to be Muslim, and they say, or they claim, that someone through hard work can become a prophet? And they made themselves prophets. Did you hear that? I'm sure you did. Did you hear about Ghulam Mirza? Did you hear about that name? Okay, Ghulam Mirza is the lead of the Qadiani or the Ahmadi group. And you have in Africa more? Ya Latif. Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar. Okay. Okay, so there are many of these. Unfortunately, even in Syria, we have someone who was a sheikh, big sheikh, and he started to say that prophethood can be attained, can be achieved, and it is not just a selection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this message is kufr by itself. Whoever says that prophethood can be achieved and it is not a selection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that statement is a statement of kufr. That statement will change the person from being Muslim, if ever he was, to become, wal'iyadu billah, out of the fold of Islam. Okay. Now the second one is that the messengers are protected from doing any major sin, or from delivering any false message. So all messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected them from doing anything that is major sin, or from delivering anything wrong. So in other words, if you hear something from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and it's an authentic hadith, then it means that it is the truth, and there's no way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can make a mistake in the message. Now the third one, very quick, is that no one inherits the messengers. No one inherits the messengers. And we know from the hadith that some of the wives of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, after his death, they sent to Uthman radiallahu anhu, or they sent Uthman radiallahu anhu to Abu Bakr, asking for their inheritance from Rasulullah ﷺ. At that point in time, Aisha said radiallahu anha, didn't Rasulullah ﷺ say, لا نورث ما تركناه فهو صدقة? She said, didn't Rasulullah say in the authentic hadith, which is actually reported in Bukhari and Muslim, that we do not get inherited, whatever we have left behind is going to be sadaqah. So all prophets, whatever they would never they will never get inherited, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow that, and all of their wealth, which was close to nothing, was put into the sadaqah. When they sleep, their eyes will close, their eyes will sleep, but their hearts will not. And that's why when during the time of Al-Isra, he sallallahu was in that movement while his eyes were closed for the most part. Allahu alam how everything has happened, but for the most part his eyes were closed, but his heart was not. And at the same time, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that my heart doesn't sleep. He said that to his Sahaba radiallahu anhum wa ardahum. Isa or the prophets themselves, at the time of death, they will be given the choice. So in other words, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the angel of death to take the soul of any human being, if this human being is a prophet, then the angel of death will approach the prophet and will let him know that it is the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set forward for this thing. And the prophet will be given the choice whether to take that or to ask for more time. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, jazakallah khair, just had the same thing. And Aisha radiallahu anha reported in the authentic hadith that as he was on his deathbed, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was by himself, and he was in a very difficult situation. And then she heard him saying, بَلِ الرَّفِيقِ الْأَعْلَى بَلِ الرَّفِيقِ الْأَعْلَى, which means rather I choose to be with the high friend, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose majesty is above all of us. Another thing is that the messengers will be buried in the very place that they have passed away in, or that they were killed in. And as you know, that there were messengers who were killed, others who just died. And regardless of what the situation was, every messenger was buried in the very place that they lost their life at. Now, remember that their eyes will sleep, but their heart doesn't sleep. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as well as all the other prophets, therefore, when they have a dream, their dream is actually a revelation. Their dreams are not like our dreams. So they don't have nightmares. They don't have just no meaning dream, meaningless dreams. They don't have that. All their dreams are coming as revelation, as inspiration by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because their hearts do not sleep, it's only their eyes, they are always getting the dream in its full command. So they deliver it in the right way. And that is why, in fact, this is one of the things that I had in my mind when I was very young. And no one was able to answer it to me until I grew up and started to listen to the mashayikh and ulama, and then one of the mashayikh explained that. My question was, when we hear the story of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, doesn't it say, Ya bunayya inni ara fil manami anni adhbahuk, oh my son, I see in my dream that I am slaughtering you? And then what does his son say? He would say, oh Allah, oh my dad, do whatever you are being commanded to do, right? And my question was, why would Ismail say that? Why wouldn't he say this? My dad, this was a nightmare, just don't follow it. And no one was able to answer it until, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me to learn from some mashayikh. And that's where they meant, I learned the hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the prophets special in a way that all their dreams are haqq, are actually inspirations, are true messages, are divine messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that they would never have that type of like nightmare or like the nonsense dreams or the meaningless dreams. The prophets' wives cannot get married after their death. I'm sure everyone knows that. And then the last one is that prophets are always men, always masculine. There were no messengers or prophets who were female. Any person can tell me why. Maybe the sisters have the answer. This is not discrimination, by the way. So, this is not discrimination, but why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only has sent masculine or male prophets and messengers, not female?
Every month there will be in a cycle period, so there will be cannot deliver any message.
Well, the ulama have talked about several reasons for this. One of them was as simple as is Islam and all the religions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they call people for modesty. They call women to be modest in their appearance, and they call also men to be modest in their appearance, but we know the limits and the rulings differences between men and women. And it also is actually expected from the Prophet to be a person who can travel by himself, who can be sitting with people like on a one-on-one basis with no one with them, and so on and so forth. So it just does not befit the type of modesty that the women are asked in Islam to have, or in all the other divine messages that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought. In fact, this does not in any way discriminate against gender. And that's why we have seen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the names of women to be next to the names of even messengers. Like Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam has talked about Asya. Asya was the wife of Fir'aun, and he sallallahu said that she is the perfect woman. And he sallallahu has talked about Maryam. How many times Maryam's name was mentioned in the Quran, right? I mean, for someone who just reads the Quran to know stories and whatnot, he would think, if he doesn't know the answer, he would think that Maryam was just a messenger, because her name was mentioned even more than more than Dhul Kifl, for example, right? More than Ilyasa, and those were prophets. But it is just a matter of the functionality and the behavior that is expected from each gender, that this prophethood with all its responsibilities befits more the male type of personality than the female, with all the things that I mentioned and others. Okay, any question? I'll jump to the next topic if not. Yeah, go ahead.
I heard it's like the body of the prophet. So the question I have is, I heard that the body of the prophet does not get eaten up by earth like everybody else. Is that true, Sheikh?
Yeah, that's what we know. Yeah, although no one verified that. That's what we know, that their bodies are kept after their death. How and why and all that stuff, we don't know. This is all ghaib. This is all ghaib. Yes, Akhi. Is it halal to dig up a prophet's grave? It's not halal to dig other people's graves, even the non-Muslims. Let alone Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wants to check, right?
Like if you're moving, like if you're not really taking them out to look at them, you're taking them out to like move them to the Kaaba or something like that.
Well, Umar, I had a similar question when I was your age. And I thought maybe we did not see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but since his body is kept, maybe we can see him now. And I was like, maybe there will be some incident that will, astaghfirullah, but that's all like a childhood.
Like X-rays or something like that to see.
X-rays, astaghfirullah al-azim. Are we making like a research lab in the Prophet Masjid? No, Habib. Okay, so let's move to the next topic, which is Iman in al-Ba'th. Iman bil-Yawm al-Akhir, the belief in the Day of Judgment, in the last day, in the resurrection day. Before I do this, let me just mention one hadith which was reported in both Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. The hadith says that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has prayed Salat al-Fajr along with his companions. When he finished his salah, he returned, as we know, the Imam returns back to face the Musallin. And that's what he did. Remember, this is after what? Salat al-Fajr. After Salat al-Fajr. So, and then he said to them, بينما رجل يسوق بقرة له فأعيا أي تعب إذ ركبها فضربها. That there was a person, like a farmer or whatever, and he was pulling a cow behind him. At one point in time, he became tired. So what he did, he beated that cow. Why? He wanted the cow to do the plowing. You know how they use the cows to, like to till, exactly. So he was like, wow, it's becoming difficult. So he started to beat the cow. So Rasul ﷺ has said that the cow spoke. The cow spoke up and she said, إِنَّا لَمْ نُخْلَقْ لِهَذَا إِنَّمَا خُلِقْنَا لِلْحَرْثِ. That verily we have not been created to be beaten. We were created to do the, to do the plowing. So the people around Rasulullah ﷺ said, Subhanallah. They were surprised. Is it possible for a cow to speak? And listen to what happened here. He ﷺ said, فَإِنِّي أُؤْمِنُ بِهَذَا وَأَبُو بَكْرٍ وَعُمَرٍ وَمَا ثَمَّ فِي الْمَجْلِسِ أَبُو بَكْرٍ وَلَا عُمَرٍ. When everyone was surprised and they said, Subhanallah, is this possible? A cow would speak up? And the Rasul ﷺ said, but I verily believe in that. And also Abu Bakr and Umar believe in that too. And neither Abu Bakr nor Umar was in that gathering at which Rasul ﷺ first mentioned this story. So in other words, neither Abu Bakr nor Umar heard this story from him ﷺ. No one, neither of them have heard it. Yet Rasulullah ﷺ wanted to give them a lesson. What was the lesson? That if a person hears Rasulullah ﷺ saying something, then you take it with no question. It is fact. It is fact. And not only that he wanted to teach them that, he wanted to tell them that I already have people who already are practicing that. And who are they? Abu Bakr and Umar. You see the point? That's why when Abu Bakr was called the Siddiq, because when the Rasul ﷺ told about his journey to Jerusalem and then to the seventh heaven, everyone was like, he's crazy. What is he saying? But then they went to Abu Bakr and they said, did you know what your friend has said? He heard the story from them before he heard it from Rasulullah ﷺ. And his answer was, إِن كَانَ قَالَهُ فَقَدْ صَدَقَ. If Rasulullah ﷺ has said that, then he is the most truthful, and I believe in it. At that point in time, he was called as-Siddiq, the most truthful, and the one who is the most trusting person to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So why am I saying this hadith? In fact, there are many hadith that give the same meaning. Is because we need to be very careful when we talk about al-ghayb, the unknowns. Because many of us would say, wow, this is too difficult for us to comprehend, or very, very difficult for us to imagine. Yes, because we know that whatever physics law that we have in this in the universe around us may not be applicable to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created elsewhere. So in this seen world for us, there are laws that we have learned. But in the unseen world, there are different creatures and different creations that they have their own laws that no one knows except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something to happen, I mean, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something to happen in this on top of earth, we learn that because we have seen Allah's creation. It's not because we were the one who invented this law. For example, we know that this goes like this down, and we understand it's because of gravity, right? It's because when Allah created earth, Allah made that feature to happen. Because there is a mass of earth, and this huge mass makes this gravity, and everything really goes closer to it, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have created earth in a different way. And because we did not see that different way, we didn't know about those laws. The same thing applies to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said to the fire that the people of Ibrahim has thrown him in it, right? Didn't they throw him in the fire? What did happen? قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created fire for us in this dunya, Allah created to be burning, right? But Allah could have created fire to be not burning. And just because we have seen the one side of it doesn't mean that Allah cannot make it on the other side. You see the point? And that's the point that we want to always have in our minds, that the thing that we know is only limited to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to understand, or has allowed us to understand and see. But anything beyond that is actually out of our understanding. It's out of the scope of what we can understand or what we can learn. And we just cannot apply any law to it. We can't just say this doesn't really fit the physics law or doesn't fit the chemistry or whatever. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can just say to something be, and it will be. Okay. So let me then start with a few of the hadith. In Musnad Imam Ahmad, Aisha radiallahu anha said that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to make in his salah a special dua. Allahumma hasibni hisaban yasira. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make my accountability in the day of judgment an easy one. قالت عائشة ما الحساب اليسير. So how this could become easy? And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said أن ينظر في كتابه فيتجاوز عنه. That it will be easy if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will look at his book, at someone's book, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive him. In another hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, and this is also in Bukhari and Muslim, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be talking to an individual believer or individual slave of his or servant of his. And he will show him, he will expose to him all of his past sins, or not all, but some of his past sins. And everyone he would see a set of them, Allah will show him another set. Until the person would feel that it is it, this was it, and he will have no hope. When that happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to his believing man or woman, أَنَا سَتَرْتُهَا عَلَيْكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَأَنَا أَغْفِرُهَا لَكَ الْيَوْمِ فَيُعْطَى كِتَابَ حَسَنَاتِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he would see his servant, man or woman, that they are about to give up, because now they have just seen some of their bad deeds, some of their sins, and they started to give up. And they are like, what when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will mention this and that? They know about their sayyat. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets them to that state when they are already when they already gave up, when they already have have no hope, at that point in time Allah will tell them, I was the one who covered you when you did this sin and did not expose you in the dunya. And I'll be the one that I will forgive you those sins in the day of judgment. So that is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's how we hear Allah's saying, وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ فَلَا تَسْمَعُ إِلَّا هَمْسًا. In that day of judgment, everyone will be silent. And everyone will be just attentive to what Allah, Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say. Can someone tell me, what is the first thing that a person will be asked about in the day of judgment? As-salat. أول ما يحاسب عنه العبد يوم القيامة الصلاة فإن حسنت نظر في باقي العمل وإن ساءت ردت عليه ورد عليه عمله. That the first thing that Allah will look at in the day of judgment is someone's prayer in this dunya. If this was fine, then the remaining of his or her actions will be assessed. Otherwise, it will be rejected on their faces, along with everything they did. And that is why, if any person wants to raise his kids, emphasizing on one thing in their life, it must be the prayer. It must be the prayer. This is the very first thing that Allah would ask any son of Adam. How did you do this? It is your prayer. So I know that many of our kids, when they hear us, oh, dad is boring. Every time it's about salah, 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 salah. He never changes the subject. Well, they must know, and we must also be aware that if you have this right, then anything else can be right. But if this one is wrong, then nothing will be right. And there is no value, wallahi. Wallahi, there's nothing that you will gain from your son or your daughter. There's nothing that you can teach them. There's nothing that you can give them. There's nothing that you can gift them better than teaching them the importance and significance of salah. Wallahi, there's nothing that you can ever think in your life that will be valuable to your children, especially when they grow up, better than this connection that you will build and establish between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their prayers. طيب. Any question? Yes. Yes.
Does this salam prayer extend to the people before Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or just restricted to?
So salah was in every nation, in every prophet's message. However, the type of salah, the way they did salah would differ. And that's why when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam got the revelation about salah, as we know from the hadith, Musa alayhi salam said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ask your Lord to make it less number of rak'ahs or less amount of prayer. He said, because I tried my people and it was too difficult for them. You got it, Akhi? So, but what type of salah, like how would they do it? That was different. And salah, by the way, just so we understand it better, the word salah in Arabic means dua. Prayer is dua. Salah is dua. But when we call it salat in fiqh, in the chapters of fiqh, then we mean the salah like Fajr, Dhuhr, Maghrib, Isha, and Asr. So whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the salah of people who came before us or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it could have been the dua, or it could have been some rituals that is just similar to what we do, or something of a variance of that. Okay. Okay. So let's proceed, inshallah. Now let me give you a few ahadith on the Day of Judgment. There's this one hadith about seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Day of Judgment. Rasul there's this hadith that one of the Sahaba has said that we were with Rasulullah walking in one night. So he looked at the full moon and he said, "You will be seeing your Lord very explicit." Just like how explicit you can see the full moon in the night where there is no cloud, right? This is not an analogy of how Allah will look. This is an analogy to say that we will be seeing Allah clearly with nothing that prevents us from seeing Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like how in the very clear day, a very clear night, we can see the full moon without anything that will block our view. You see the point? But then what did he ﷺ say? فَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتُمْ أَلَّا تُغْلَبُوا عَلَى صَلَاةٍ قَبْلَ طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وَقَبْلَ غُرُوبِهَا فَافْعَلُوا. So he said, if you were to prepare yourself for this, if you wanted to prepare yourself for this and be among those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let them enjoy seeing Him subhanahu wa ta'ala in that very clear time, then be prompt at your prayer of Fajr and at your prayer of Asr. The prayer before the sunrise, Jazakallah khair, and the prayer before the sunset. Now, the ulama actually have mentioned this hadith to say this is like this hadith shows the virtue of Salatul Subh and Salatul Al-Asr. In fact, all of the salat are important, but actually those two salah have been mentioned many times as a special salah, and the reason for that, wallahu alam, is because they are the most difficult prayers for whom, ya Umar? What is the most difficult prayer for you? Qiyam al-Layl. Wallahi, so, Fard, from the 5 daily prayer, what is your most difficult prayer? Al-Fajr time. Okay, the hadith says that Salat al-Fajr and Salat al-Asr are the most difficult time for the hypocrites.
Isn't it Aisha?
Yeah, that doesn't mean that if someone has Salat al-Asr or Fajr as difficult, that he will be hypocrite. No, it doesn't mean that, because it is difficult for anyone, of course. But what the hadith means is that they will find it difficult and they will not do it unless they will show off. You see the point? So that the difference between a hypocrite and a truthful person is that at the time when they pray Fajr, if it is in congregation, both of them will come. But if they are praying it individually, then it's only the truthful person will do it and the hypocrite will not. Because the only reason the hypocrite is doing salah is to show off to the people. Okay. Now, let's read another hadith. The hadith talks about what happens the first time that people will ever see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who will see Him. So the hadith is in both Bukhari and Muslim. And the hadith says that all the people will be gathered together, and then they will be asked all of a sudden, so that every group will follow the Lord that they were worshipping. So those who were worshipping sun, they will go. There will be an object resembling sun, and they will be going up behind it. Those who were worshipping idols, there will be those things, and everyone will be going somewhere, and they will be casted to the hellfire. Now, who will be remaining? The ones who were worshipping Allah, right? And those will be either the believers or the or those who were pretending, and those are the hypocrites. The hadith says that at that point in time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show those remaining ones, will expose Himself to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let them see Him. And then they will be asked to go to the bridge. We know the bridge, right? The bridge is that I'm sorry? Sirat, exactly. And the Sirat, it actually goes on top of Jahannam. So it goes from one end to another end. When they go through that Sirat, as they are in the Sirat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a line between them, between the believers and the hypocrites. In fact, it's like a fence, or it's like a barrier. So from the side of the believers, it is a fence of mercy. It's a fence of light. And they can walk through the bridge until they cross the hellfire. But from the side of the hypocrites, it will be full of darkness and they will be casted to the hellfire. Okay, so what does the hadith here say? The hadith here says that there are three groups. One group will go to Jahannam directly. The other group will go to Jannah and they will pass the bridge or the Sirat. And then there's the third group, which is the hypocrites, who will see Allah for one time. They will walk on the bridge for some time, and then it will be full darkness, and they will be thrown in the fire. Now, this mas'ala of whether the hypocrites will see Allah or not is has a bit of difference of opinion between the scholars. But this hadith is actually the hadith that supports those Sahaba and those scholars who have said that they will see Allah. But let us just think about it more carefully and understand what the ulama have said about this hadith, because it's very, very, very meaningful, this hadith, to really be understood in the right way. Now, seeing Allah is a pleasure. Don't we agree? Yes. It's a pleasure. So someone may say, how would the hypocrites, who are worse than the disbelievers, how would they see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Isn't that making them get some pleasure? Yes, Abdullah.
Sometimes getting some pleasure and not continuing with it is worse than not getting the pleasure at all.
In the first place. Yeah, that's true. So let's say that a person, what he just mentioned, Jazakallah khair, is that if a person gets the pleasure for a very short period of time, and then will be prevented from getting that pleasure any more, it will be more difficult. I want to give you this very quick example. You bring a gift, very nice, bright gift for your child, like the best gift ever. And your child is like very young and very excited, and he has been waiting for this gift for a long time. You place this gift in front of him, and your child is, wow! And he will jump to it. And then you said no, and you take it away. What would happen? Would that be worse or better than the scenario where the father just doesn't bring the gift to the son? What is worse? Seeing it and then not having it, right? So that's a punishment for the hypocrites rather than an enjoyment for them. But again, this is like a matter of disagreement between ulama. Some of the ulama have said that the hypocrites will not see Allah at all, and at the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose Himself to the people, as the hadith says, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone will see Him. Perhaps they will not be enabled to see Him, but all of these are in the unseen world. regardless of what it is not going to be enjoyment to the hypocrites. It is going to be a further punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish them for. Yes?
But isn't bringing Allah when it comes to getting hijab?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a hadith that says that?
So that hijab is not in this particular moment. That's a different time.
So when is the time where each person is judged? Like when each person is asked what they were doing?
Okay, we're coming to that, inshallah.
There'll already be like some of them in Jahannam, some of them in Jannah, like some of them.
No. This is actually different because I skipped that part. I'm coming back to it. So the hisab happens after the day of judgment. So the way it happens, and we have things that we know their order, and there are things that we don't know their order. From what we know their orders is that the people will be resurrected, and then they will be waiting for the hisab to be recalled, for the accounting day, for the accounting process to happen, right? And that will take a long time. There's one hadith that says, whoever collects gold and silver and does not make the zakat due on it, like he's just saving and saving, very stingy, not even giving the minimum zakat that is required in it, like the minimum charity that is required. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will turn those into burning sheets of silver and gold, and they will be burning the person as they are waiting in the last day or in the resurrection day for 50,000 years. 50,000 years. So Allahu Alam what that means. Allahu Alam what 50,000 years means, because those are the years of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what we can say is that there is a long time that everyone will wait. So that long time that everyone will wait, during that time is when the Rasul ﷺ said that the sun will get close to the people, and they will be sweating, and they will be drowning in their sweat, to the extent that some of them will get drowned to their ears. Like they can't even breathe. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect the believers, those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them His shade, His thorn shade. And those are the ones that were mentioned in the hadith. سَبْعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ تَحْتَ ظِلِّ عَرْشِهِ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّهُ. That those are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the shade, so that they will be protected from that heat that comes to other people very close. And then it will go over a long time, and then the people will come and try to get, as it is mentioned in the hadith of Shafa'ah, they will try to go to the messengers and ask and seek their help, meaning that they will ask these messengers to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will start the hisab, the accounting day, right? And they will go to Adam. Adam will excuse himself. They will go to the prophets, like to Nuh alayhi salam, to Musa alayhi salam, to Ibrahim alayhi salam, to Isa alayhi salam, all the way until they come to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yarhamukallah. When they come to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the hadith says, that he will go and he will be allowed and permitted to get closer to the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will fall prostrating to Allah, making sajda at a position that no one else is allowed to get close to. When he makes this sajda, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah will teach me from the dua and from the dhikr that will glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I have never learned before. Which is something that would befit the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then it will be said to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, irfa' ra'sak وَاشْفَعْ تُشَفَّعْ. That at this point in time, it will be said to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, raise your head up and make your intercession, and Allah will accept that. And that would be the intercession that this long waiting time, the 50,000 years, will come to an end, and then people will start to be the accounting time will start. That's what we call in Aqeedah الشفاعة العظمى. الشفاعة العظمى. الشفاعة العظمى means the greatest intercession. It is only given to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That's why after we hear adhan, what do we say? اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه اللهم المقام المحمود الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. That, oh Allah, send Prophet Muhammad in this best position and best place in the day of judgment. حبيبي خليني أخلص. And that is the Shafa'a al-Uzma. Shafa'a al-Uzma is the greatest privilege that Allah would ever give to any human being. And it is given to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And that is to end that waiting time and to become ready for the accounting time. When that happens, the accounting time is, as I mentioned in some of the hadith, the people will be asked about their prayers, and then the people will be asked about other things. And the hadith that says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be merciful with the believers despite the fact that they may come to a point where they almost give up because of all the bad sins that they have remembered from their past life. And after that, it is the hadith that we talked about, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings them together back, and Allah the disbelievers will be casted to the fire, and the hypocrites along with the believers will remain, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show Himself, or will allow them to see Him. And the ulama have said that Allahu alam, that the munafiqeen will see Him, but then they will be going through the bridge and they will be prevented from continuing because of that barrier, and they will be casted in the hellfire. Wal-'iyadhu billah. There are those ahadith about things like al-hawd, the tank of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the other type of shafa'a, the minor shafa'as. So there's the major shafa'a, which we just mentioned, and there are the minor shafa'a. And all those other things, those are things that we probably don't know exactly the sequence of them. Some of the ulama have tried to put them in sequence, but we don't really have a very explicit hadith that really shows the exact sequence of all of them. But just to make it clear about those two things in particular, that every prophet will have his own tank. And that tank is the tank of water. We call it hawd. It's a tank of water that the followers of that prophet will be able to drink at the time when everyone will be thirsty. And Rasulullah ﷺ will have the best tank. Who is feeding? What is feeding this tank? Anyone? Al-Kawthar. Al-Kawthar is the one feeding that tank of water. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam will be seeing all of his ummah, his sahaba, their followers until the day of judgment. He will be seeing all of his ummah. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam will be able to recognize these people, even those who he did not know during his life. Allah will enable him to recognize them. But then he ﷺ would see that some of them were coming close, and then they will be asked to leave. And Rasul ﷺ would say, Ya Allah, ummati, those are from my ummah. And it will be said to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إنك لا تدري إنك لا تعلم ماذا أحدثوا من بعدك. You don't know how much of innovation, how much of bad sins those people have introduced after you passed away. And that's why, brothers and sisters, we probably, I don't think anyone would have any doubt about the love of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And we all hear this hadith that anta ma'a man ahbabt, that you will be with the people you love them in the day of judgment. And we always say we love Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this hadith of al-Hawd in particular, that says that people will be coming to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to meet with him and drink from his tank, but then many of them will be prevented. So they will come, they will think that they will be able to drink and come close to Prophet, but they will be prevented. And when the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tries to get them in and ask for why they are being prevented, it will be said to him, you don't know what they have, what mess, what sins, what innovations they have introduced after you pass away. So for all of us, a claim is something, but the actual follow of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is something else. When people say we love him, but then the life has nothing to do with his sunnah, that is not a claim that may help a person the day of judgment. It's only when that claim, when that love gets translated into daily actions, at that point in time, your love really be counted in the time of the day of judgment. So I think we should stop here. It's already 9:30, alhamdulillah. There was one...
I need you to clarify the position of the Christians.
About?
Because you are saying that everybody will be made to follow the idols that they were following.
Sure.
Now, those who were worshipping Jesus in this world, what would be their situation in that?
Barakallah feek. So the question is about this hadith that says that everyone will be asked to follow who they were worshipping. They may not be following the exact thing that they were worshipping, but it is something that resembles that. So those who claim that they are following Jesus, they will be following a cross, and they will be going wal-'iyadhu billah, or something that resembles that. But Prophet Isa, Jesus, and his own true followers will be, of course, from the people of the paradise. Yeah, it's only those who... And by the way, this is not only Christians, even Muslims. Aren't there people who, wal-'iyadhu billah, they are worshipping Prophet Muhammad? Aren't there people like that? I mean, I saw this by my own eyes. There were people who make sujood to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How is that different from anyone else? The fact they call them Muslims doesn't save them. It is actually what they have been doing. So those who worship Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad has nothing to do with them in the day of judgment. And what they will be following will be some symbol that they will know, and they will go with it, wal-'iyadhu billah, to the hellfire. Okay, so with that said, inshallah, next time we will be talking, there will be a little bit of a few things that we want to say about this, but then inshallah we'll be focusing about Iman and Qada and Qadar. Iman, Qada and Qadar is not an easy one. So please try to come. It is very, inshallah, helpful and very useful. Many of us have a problem understanding it, or at least implementing it in our life. I hope, inshallah, that next time it will be very helpful and very useful. And by that, we will be concluding our first Aqeedah in Action, Part 1. Jazakumullah khair. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.